Hello, everyone. My name is Igor Tomych, and today we are conducting interviews on merchant payment ecosystem in Berlin. And I'm pleased to introduce Chen Zamir, who is the head of fraud detection in Sardine. So hello, Chen, how are you?
Good. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good, good. And we prepared three questions for you to understand what is driving the merchant ecosystem today. And the first one, I think everyone faced the situation when you're filling in all the payment details on the website, trying to buy something, and it says that it failed. So basically, is it still a thing to have a hidden cost of the false positive deductions in payments?
Yeah, definitely. I always say that, chargebacks and fraud is a very loud failure mode. When you have fraud, you always hear about it. But most companies, most businesses, when we're talking about merchants, for example, they, most of the time they don't have fraud. But what they do have is a silent failure mode, which is false positives, which is exactly these declines, Igor, that you mentioned. And I think that I would assume that if you're currently not experiencing fraud as a merchant, it is almost safe to assume that you are experiencing too many false positives. And that's definitely something that we're still seeing today, even though this topic has been talked about to death for many, many years.
Yeah, actually it's important because what we know and what we don't know, and usually the information that we don't know is much more important that we know. And the second question for today is, what in your experience most underrated data signal for the merchants that can leverage right now to reduce the false positive cases?
Here's the thing, I think false positives are not, they don't look the same. And every solution, every fraud solution that is designed to stop fraud or particular fraud patterns, particular fraud attacks, produces different types of false positives. So I'll always give all sorts of examples. So let's say that I'm trying to identify when the IP location is different than the billing address of the card. If I know that IP type belongs to a corporate or a government or a military base, that helps me to explain this anomaly. Different example, if I'm going through a KYC check and I'm trying to understand or to validate the identity of a consumer, if I hit some kind of like a flag, but I know the device and I know that this device has been used by this name, this identity before, that helps me to explain why this isn't suspicious. So the point is that different solutions, different fraud attacks cause different kinds of false positives. And to manage these false positives, you need a lot of different signals. So this is the first thing. Always think about how can I acquire the most amount of different signals. The second thing is that you need to be very minded to that. I think a lot of fraud teams, when they think about solutions for fraud prevention, they think about how do I stop fraud? And instead, some of the time, you want to think, how can I improve my false positive rate?
Yeah, thank you. That's quite detailed. And I'm thinking about agentic payments a lot, and I think it will drive a lot of changes how we do the payments online and how we interact with the different websites. So what do you think, what are the frameworks going to fail with the agentic payments? Because a lot of things right now, they assuming that the human being with the real device and real access to the payment instruments is doing the things, but is it changing with the agentic AI?
Absolutely. How? We don't really know because we haven't really seen agentic commerce at scale. We actually just published at Sardine a white paper about rethinking fraud prevention for agentic commerce. And I would flag two things where we are pretty certain we will see failures. The first one is that obviously, agents produce less data or less reliable data than humans because the behavioral biometrics, even the device ID, information about the browser, all of these things will disappear. And this means that a lot of the fraud detection mechanisms that we have in place, be it rules or be it models or be it AI agents, they would degrade in performance. So this would mean that we would need to segment agentic commerce apart and solve for that separately, dedicated models, dedicated rules, and so on. The second thing that we need to think about is SCA, strong customer authentication or 2FA flows. If an AI agent is doing a transaction on behalf of me while I'm asleep or while I'm at a dentist, and the issuer invokes 3D Secure, for example, not only that I don't know that a transaction is currently taking place and I'm not ready to react to it, I'm also not available. So how would that be solved? Will we see a rise in false positives? Will we see a rise in fraud? We still don't know, but these are the two things that I would look into first.
Thank you for your perspective. It was really nice to find out what you see and what is happening on the market. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.